G'day, I'm Jeff. I'm one of the trainers here at Healthways, and today I'd like to talk to you about stretching. Our bodies are really complex, lots of componentry. We've got over 650 different muscles, 4,000 tendons, 900 ligaments, all held together by our skeletal framework of over 200 bones. Our bodies are designed to move and designed to move well, no matter what age we're at or no matter what we're doing. So I really encourage you to work on your stretching, because not only is it important for flexibility and mobility, it'll help your balance, it'll certainly help your posture, but it can also reduce risk of chronic diseases like heart disease, can reduce risks of type 2 diabetes, it can reduce risks of musculoskeletal injuries by up to 50%, and as well as just getting you to move well and feel well about how you're moving, no matter what age you're at. So stretching as a notion is about elongating the muscles, and it's a deliberate action to elongate those muscles and to keep those muscles nice and strong, to keep them nice and elastic, because if we don't continually work them and keep the mobility in those muscles, what they do is they'll start to contract. And once they start to contract, your muscles get smaller and tighter, and so you start to lose your flexibility, your mobility, and it really starts to affect things like your posture, how you stand, and how you just operate day-to-day life. So stretching's critical. It's a really important part of what we do. Ideally, we'd like to stretch every day, but if you can stretch 2 or 3 times a week for 10 or 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, that's ideal. So let's get into a stretching routine. We're going to cover the major parts of the body today, because what happens, because lots of people are so sedentary these days, we have this thing called the sitting disease. And sitting disease is pretty much deconditioning. So what we want to do is reverse the effects of deconditioning by working on some key areas of the body. And they will be your hamstrings, which is the back of the legs. They will be your quads and your hip flexors at the top of your legs, your hips and your glute, your chest, your arms and your shoulders, and your spine and your neck. So they're the areas we're going to work on today. We'll do these in a sitting form or a standing form, so whatever works for you. And you'll find that these will really benefit you from a flexibility point of view, mobility, posture, and also just how you're feeling and your quality of life. So let's get into some stretching. The first stretch we're going to do today is a hamstring stretch. Now the hamstrings are the muscles that run through the back of your leg here. They attach at the top of your hip, back into the back of the knee, and they run through the leg. We want to keep these hamstrings nice and long, nice and elastic, because if they get shorter, if they contract, it's going to pull your hips back. And what that's going to do is put you into a posterior pelvic tilt by tilting your hips forward. So from a postural point of view, that's not what we want. So keeping the hamstrings nice and long will get those hips back into a nice position, keep you nice and tall posturally, and take the load out of your lower back. If you're getting into that pelvic tilt, your glutes are switched off and you're loading up through your lower back, and that's where you're going to get pain. So getting these guys nice and fit and long will reduce the risk of lots of things when we sit too long, we're in bed too long, and your hamstrings are in this resting position. So we'll do 2 lots of hamstring stretches, one sitting and one standing, for you to see the difference. So the first one is a seated hamstring stretch, quite simple. Sit on the forward on your chair, just extend the right or the left leg out, and just hinge yourself forward, and you'll feel it stretching from the back of the knee up into the top of the hips here. The idea here is try and lock your knee down and hinging forward, stretch. And then when you're done there, go to the other side and stretch. Good. Then if you want to do it from a standing point of view, quite simple. Find a chair. If you need to just grab something to balance yourself, make sure you're doing that to be safe. Kneel on the chair, lock your knee down, stretching forward. Okay. Once again, you want to feel that stretch, you want to hold the stretch, because the idea is to keep the muscle under tension and under load, and that will ensure that keeps it in the extended position. Then you'll change over. All right, so that's a standing one. If you wanted to go a bit higher, want something a bit higher, you can go a bit higher. Or if you wanted to go on the floor, up on the floor, just on your back, grab your leg. I can feel that stretching nice and long through the back of the leg here. All right, then you change over and you do your other leg. Trying to keep your knee locked as much as you can all the time. So that's a hamstring stretch, and that'll really help to alleviate all the tensions that happen from lots of sitting and deconditioning because we're spending a sedentary life. Our next stretch is a quad stretch. Now the quad muscles are the muscles, there's 4 muscles that run into the quads, they attach to the knee, up into the hip, and they also work into what's called the hip flexor. So really important. Quads are super important because they just allow everyday life. They allow you to sit down, stand up, walk, climb up stairs. So strengthening your quads is critical. And your hamstrings, if your quads are deconditioned, they're going to get shorter. And what shorter quads are going to pull your hips forward. All right, so we'll go into what's called an anterior pelvic tilt. So I'm now in this interior pelvic tilt position, my hips are tilted forward, I'm loading up through my lower back, my glutes are switched off. That's no good. So by having good strong quads and hip flexors, that allows us to get into this nice postural position. So a couple of ways we do our quad stretches. The first is a seated way. Find yourself a chair, and preferably with no arms on the chair, so you can sit on the side of the chair. I'm going to stretch my right quad. So I'm going to take my right back and I'm going to drop my hips down to that side. And you're going to feel it starting here, stretching all the way down to your knee, and you just hold that stretch. Now ideally we hold these stretches for 30 seconds. Any stretch we do, we hold for 30 seconds to keep the muscle under load. All right, and then when you're ready, after 30 seconds, feel that stretch, you'll turn around and you'll change sides. And you go to the other side. All right, leg goes nice and long back, feel that stretch through the front of the leg. The other way you can do a quad stretch, grab something to balance yourself, standing up, you just pull your knee up towards the back of your hips. All right. Balancing yourself. It's also a great balance exercise if you can do it without having to grab something, but grab something if you need to, and then you do both sides there. And another one on the floor, great quad stretch, grab the back of your leg and pull that up. I can really feel that stretching there. So there's a couple of ways to do a quad stretch to keep the condition and the length in the quad muscles, which are such critical muscles for us. Next stretch focuses on our spine, and our spine is such a critical part of our mobility, flexibility, quality of life, and if we can keep the muscles around our spine nice and strong, nice and supple, that will ensure we've got a nice healthy spine. And your spine, your neck, cervical spine, thoracic spine, lumbar spine, this particular stretch will work all those three parts of the spine. It's called the cat-cow stretch, and we also go into the child's pose, and you've probably heard of those. So, standing cat-cow, you can do them with just standing here, hands on your knee, and we roll up, tuck your chin under. In this position, we are rounding through the spine, so we're rounding through the back of the spine, the front of the spine is contracting, and then as we come up, we push our chin up, right, we're just opening up through this part of the spine, we're closing this part of the spine, and then we get this nice flow movement. And this is how we would do it standing. Good, you don't want to be pushing too hard, we're rounding, and you're getting some beautiful spine mobility here. Then if you wanted to do that on the floor, hop onto the floor. Once again, we tuck our chin under, roll up through the spine, so we're lengthening through the back of the spine here, and we push our belly button down, we pull our chin up, a beautiful movement. Now I've opened up through the spine here, and I've closed the spine here. This is a great exercise for your lower back extensor muscles, and also all the muscles that support and surround your spine. Then, from that position, go into your child's pose. You'll feel this stretch through your shoulders, it's also lengthening through your spine, and then you can come back up into your cat-cow. So this is probably the gold standard exercise for spine mobility, and a beautiful exercise to do just to keep that for your flexibility, for your mobility, getting up and down in everyday life. Great exercise, I love that. Our next exercise is a pigeon pose or a figure four stretch. And this one really helps to unlock tight hips, all right? The hips are a big complex structure, big ball unit, lots of tendons and ligaments and muscles that link into the hip structure. But this one really helps to unlock where we get tight hips once again from too much sitting. So the figure four stretch or the pigeon pose, the seated version is just sitting up nice and tall. You bring your right leg onto your left ankle, sitting nice and tall, and just push that top knee down, nice and gentle. You don't want pain. Discomfort's okay, but you don't want any more than two or three in discomfort. If there's any pain, don't do it. All right? Like anything, if there's any pain, just don't do it. We'll find other things to do. Then when you've done that, this will beautifully open up your hips. Remember to keep nice and tall through the back. So you don't want to be slouching, loading up your back. Nice and tall, push that top knee down. The way we do that on the floor is you'll hop onto your back, you'll cross your legs over, so my left ankle's on my right knee, and I'll just reach through here and pull this front knee in. All right, and this will really help to open up and unlock this hip and get nice and deep into a glute stretch. Those big glute muscles, our biggest muscles on the body. The further you can pull that front knee in, the more that's going to change sides, open up this hip and work these glute muscles. Beautiful stretch. And you just hold that once again, 30 seconds, 2 or 3 times, and you'll really feel that hip mobility improve as all those muscles around there, you keep the condition through there. And then we go to the floor, and we can do this on the floor. So it's the pigeon pose or the figure four stretch on the floor. So I'll put my right ankle on my left knee, I'll pull the knee in, you'll feel this opening up into the hip area here. This top leg is pulling that open, the hips open, you're getting a nice deep stretch into your glute, and pull that knee in. If that's a bit difficult, just put your knee there, right, and then lift that bottom foot off the floor, up and down, and you'll feel that working there. But once again, this is going to give you great mobility and flexibility into the hip joint. And hips are so important. Everyday movement, getting up and down, out of chairs, in and out of bed, just moving. Hip structure and hip mobility is critical. So that's a great stretch for your hip and your glute to unlock that tightness. The next of our exercise is, once again, it's a spine exercise, but it's a twisting exercise to just relieve the tension and relax the muscles and get the muscles moving that support the spine. There's a couple of ways we can do this. The seated version, it's a spine twist and a spine rotation, sitting nice and tall, and this is a good way to do it because it helps to isolate your spine from your hips. By putting the hands behind the head, good position, and you're just rotating around, right, left and right. Now, spinal mobility is so critical because we've all hurt our backs, we've all had a bad back, and we all know how debilitating that is. So keeping our spine mobility is critical. This is a great way. Isolate your hips, just sitting side to side. And you can then go working laterally, so taking your spine side to side. Good. And then the way we'll do that standing is very similar. Just twisting, good, side to side. And then when we go to the floor, this will unlock the tension in your lower back, and it's a beautiful exercise to do. So pull your right knee, you can do this in bed before you get out of bed in the morning. Pull your right knee up to your right shoulder, then you'll take your knee over the top and you'll hold. Keep your shoulders on the floor, nice deep breaths, and you'll open up all through the lower back here. Beautiful stretch to work on that, on your spine mobility. And when you've done that side, you'll do the other side. Pull the knee to the shoulder and then gently take the knee to the side. Keeping your shoulders on the floor. You don't want your shoulders to roll up because you're not going to get the effect through the spine, so keeping your shoulders on the floor. And that's a really nice spinal twist. So there's a few ways you can do that. Keeping that mobility, all those muscles around the spine, bending this way, great for your spine mobility. The next exercise we do is an exercise for our chest muscles. So these muscles are called the major pectoralis, and if they're strong, they allow us to push, to pull, to lift, lots and lots of daily functional movements. But if they're not strong and they start to contract, they'll start to pull your shoulders in. And that's not, from a postural point of view, that's not what we want, because if your shoulders start to pull in, then you'll start to round through the back. So keeping these muscles strong will help to reverse the hunching that happens from lots of sitting and lots of computer work. We want to reverse that hunching, pull the shoulders back, strong through the pec muscles here, chest muscles. So the great stretch there is just find a doorway, get an L with your arm here, palm on the door frame, and pull yourself forward. Now I can feel that stretching from the attachment here into our joints here, and it's pulling me open here through this chest muscle here. It's a beautiful stretch. As I said, it'll reverse the hunching effect of lots of sitting and lots of computer work. Right? And then you'll do the other side. If you've got a doorway wide enough, L with both arms, and then just lean into that nice and gently. And the other great thing there then, that will activate your shoulder muscles that support all the areas around the back of your shoulders and your spine. So you'll hold that as we do, 20, 30 seconds for a hold, and we rest. So there's 6 stretches I hope you'll find beneficial. As I said, stretching is often overlooked, but it's such an important and fundamental part of what we do every day for our daily routine. So as I said earlier, it's going to really help your posture, it's really going to help your balance, it's going to strengthen your muscles, it's going to help to strengthen your bones, it's going to make you feel better. It's just a great thing to do. Ideally, you want to stretch every day if you can, but even if it's 2 to 3 times a week for 10 or 15 minutes, you'll get some real benefit out of that.